Well, good morning. We're going to get started. Bruce, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. Glad to.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our ethics statement. Board members are reminded that it is our duty to avoid conflicts of interest and the appearance of conflicts of interest as we handle the work of the advisory board. Does any member of the advisory board know of any conflict of interest or an appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before us in this meeting? If so, please state them for the record. If during the course of the meeting you become aware of an actual or apparent conflict of interest, please bring the matter to the attention of the chair. It will then be your duty to abstain from participating in discussion on the matter and from voting on the matter.
Madam Chair, I must recuse from Johnston Prep Academy.
I must recuse from movement tomorrow. Our mission statement. The Charter Schools Advisory Board works to ensure the existence of high-quality charter schools in North Carolina. We are excited today. We have some brand new members of our board, and so we're going to ask them if they would introduce themselves. We'll start with Mr. Eric Sanchez, Henderson Collegiate.
Good morning. My name is Eric Sanchez, co-founder and CEO of Henderson Collegiate, former CSAP advisory board member, and just excited to be back here, be with you guys, and be part of the work that we're doing. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Dr. Shelley Bullard, who's from Pinnacle Classical Academy.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. I am Shelley Bullard, headmaster at Pinnacle Classical Academy, and just thrilled to be here and take part of this work. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Dr. John Eldridge, who's the headmaster at Chatham Charter.
Yes, Dr. John Eldridge, as she said, headmaster at Chatham Charter, and also excited to be opening a new school next year in Lee County, Central Carolina Academy. So I'll be the superintendent of the two schools, and really looking forward to it. And I'm glad to be here because I really enjoyed. Most people probably think that's crazy, but I enjoyed the process we went through. And the CSAT was it was exciting, so I'm glad to be a part of it now.
Oh, thank you. We need to approve our agenda. Any changes to the agenda? Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve today's agenda.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, we need to approve the minutes from our June 2021 meeting and then the June 23, 2021 special called meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? Ms.
Madam
Parnay?
Chair, I would like to mention with the time frame that people were entering and exiting that meeting on June 21, that we would not say approximately. 9 o'clock is 9 o'clock. Nonetheless, we're going to have a range of time. So I would be in favor of that. Those approximately's been deleted. And for the June 23rd, 2021 special call meeting minutes, I would like for the record to show that we adjourned at 10:24 a.m.
Okay, I see Ashley's got that. Okay, awesome. Can I get a motion to adopt the minutes with those changes?
I'll make a motion that we adopt the minutes, approve the minutes from those two meetings with those aforementioned changes.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I think this is where I turn it over to Dave.
Thank you. Charter School Advisory Board needs to vote on the new chair and vice chair. So at this time, I'll entertain nominations for board chair.
Mr. Charter, I'd like to nominate Cheryl Turner for board chair of CSAP.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other nominations? I'll entertain a motion that nominations be closed and Ms. Turner is elected chair by acclamation.
I make that motion.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Turner. Thank you very much for volunteering to do
I
this.
think congratulations is in order. I'm not sure about that. But I do appreciate your confidence. I will do my very best to fill his shoes. Alex was awesome, and to be able to fill his shoes. There is one thing, though, I really want to say that as the year that I spent as vice chair, I knew going into this that the Office of Charter School staff was remarkable. But the year that I spent on leadership with as the vice chair, they're unbelievable. There are over 200 schools. I mean, think about this if it was a district. There are over 200 schools. If there's 6 of them, that's a lot. And CMS has 167 schools and hundreds of people running their district. They not only have 200 schools, they got 200 schools that are all different, that are run by a whole bunch of different people that are doing anything they want. And when just the sheer amount of things that they get done and the level of quality of what they get done, I just really want us to say thank you very much to the Office of Charter School. Okay, so now we need to vote for vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
Yes, Ms. Turner, I would like to nominate Bruce Friend for the position of vice chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved. Are there any other nominations? Okay, they've been properly moved and seconded, given that that's the only nomination. Congrats. Very, very glad to have him. And then the third position in leadership is the chair of the policy committee, and Lynn Kroger has agreed to be the chair of the policy committee, so congratulations to you as well. Okay, so committee assignments, and I think, are they listed? Do we have a list?
Yep, you got it, let's see. Okay, so we do have committee assignments that you can see right here. You also received them via email several times. So these are the ones we have currently. You will see the spreadsheet that I've sent you that has all of the applications listed. I think that's kind of like the most helpful spreadsheet, and it's outlined by committee. For our new members, I've talked to some of you, but performance versus policy, there's really not there's no difference between, it's just the names we use. The CSAP used to do a lot more policy work. We don't do that as much anymore because there's a rules process. So whether it's performance or policy, there really is no difference. You're doing the same things. You're leading application interviews with your committee. You're still participating in all the applications. So if you're, performance and a policy's leading an application, you still can participate in that interview, and we hope that you do. But we have committees lead interviews. That way it just is a little bit more streamlined, and we have those chairs that can help with the process. So this is what we put together just to kind of balance out different experiences, and we don't want to have all guys and all ladies on one. So you're welcome to move to change any of this, and we just usually vote on it.
Thank you. Okay, so Dave, you want to talk about the strategic calendar?
We have, we still have one vacant position, is that correct? So,
We do.
and it's a Senate appointment?
I think so, yeah. It was that Heidi,
That's right.
yeah.
Okay. We had one member that was appointed by the Senate that
Yeah, Senate.
was not able to serve, so we're still waiting on that. Do you have the strategic calendar? You can.
Yes. Let's see. Do you want me to talk about that for a second? Yeah, the strategic calendar, also this is kind of put together just to help the board. It is, it clearly states in here, it is not it's not something that has to happen. It's kind of the guidelines for the things that we normally handle in a year. So you can see, for example, starting in September, that we always start with, this is when we have our application reviews, we have our fast track accelerations. This is online, and then it's also, yes, it's in your binder. And it's just kind of something to help you, guide you throughout the year to know what the year will look like. Obviously, the fall and winter is very, very busy for CSAP. And then, the summer, we usually are a little less busy, knock on wood.
I do have one question on the strategic calendar. we talked about changing the way we were doing apps and trying to speed up move the process earlier in the year.
Yes.
Will that affect this calendar? Because wouldn't we start reviewing apps for the next year, the end of this year?
Yes, we will, and we can always, so it will probably affect it a little bit. We'll probably might need to add some things towards the new year, at that point, we could probably revise it. But right now, I think we're like getting into this cycle. We're gonna try to focus on this, and then come January, when we will open up it's January, right? Yes. So this upcoming January 2022, we're gonna open up the 2022 cycle, which is much earlier than we normally do. There's a chance we will have 2 overlapping cycles, depending on how fast we get through this cycle. So it certainly gets a little busy, it gets a little complicated, but after that first initial year, which will be more difficult, it should hopefully, then we'll only have 1 cycle going at one time, which will start earlier. So that's a very good point, Lynn, and I think maybe we could approve this, and then in the new year, we can revise it based on what our cycle's looking like, for 21 and 22. That's a good point.
And remember, next cycle, not this one, but the new cycle that starts in January, that's when we're gonna move renewals to the first of the year. We're still gonna be on the same renewal cycle as far as when we bring them to you and take them to state board. When we move our application cycle to January through April, you will not have, look at any renewals while you're looking at applications, okay?
Thank you.
And then the last thing we have for admin related duties is just the calendar that I sent you, the proposed calendar. This is, we usually have 2-day meetings. Sometimes the calendar will be amended so that, we only need 1 day. In certain cycles, we've had 3-day meetings, but we don't think that will be necessary this year. And it's always correlated with the state board meeting. So the state board meeting is the week prior in most cases, and then you guys are the next week. Are there any questions on those admin items? We usually do take a motion. You can do them all together if you want to approve them.
To approve all those things? Okay, so can I get a motion to approve the committee assignment, strategic calendar, and the meeting calendar?
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the committee assignments, the strategic calendar and meeting calendar.
Is there a second? It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so Ms. Claire Porter now will give us an update on the schools that open this fall.
Yes, ma'am, and I promise it will not be 4 hours. Back in June. Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Chair Turner, and welcome Drs. Bullard and Eldridge as well. I'm Claire Porter, OCS staff, and we'll get right to it. You have the ready to open CSEP update. As you all know, we had 6 schools which opened out of an original 10. You can see them there. We've got Asheville Peak, Doral, Faith, Old Mainstream, Summit Creek, and Telra. And we asked them for a September update in terms of enrollment and facility, and we also asked them a few other sort of qualitative questions. So you can see there what the September enrollments are. Peak is a little bit lower. It's at 82. You can see they're break even, but most of the schools, if you'll move forward 2 slides, Ms. Vaquero, most of the schools reported 50% lower than projected enrollments. So those would be Summit, Telra, and Asheville. 1 school reported exceeding its projected enrollment. That was Old Mainstream Academy. And then 2 schools reported that their numbers were approximately, close to what they had projected.
Claire, so did you say Telra reported at 50% of projected?
Let me go back.
No, they were 99%.
No, they're 99%
Yeah,
okay.
sorry. Yep,
No, they
yeah.
reported, okay.
Telra's at 99. It was Asheville Peak that was a little on the lower side, but you'll remember that they amended their 80 and down.
Brought it down, yeah.
They're still very close to the statutory limit, though, of 80. So, and obviously this year was a particularly difficult year. So we asked the schools to update us in terms of their facilities as well. 4 schools, so 66% are in their permanent facility, and 2, Asheville, Peak, and Telra, are in temporary facilities right now. We asked them about teacher recruitment and staffing, and we asked them specifically if they were able to fill all their positions prior to the start of the school year. 5 of the schools, so 83%, were in fact able to fill all staffing positions. 1 school reported that it was able to fill more than 75%. So that school now has all its staff, but that was Old Main Stream Academy. Were there any changes to the board of directors? 3 schools, 50%, reported no board turnover at all. Their original board was in place. That was Doral, Old Main Stream, and Faith. 3 schools reported adding new board members, Asheville, Summit, and Telra. 2 schools lost board members, Asheville and Telra, and 1 school is actively searching, Asheville, Peak. And that is pretty typical for the first year. Administrative turnover is also, of course, something we're interested in. And 1 school did report that their administrator was not the same, and that was Asheville Peak. The other schools reported they had the same leadership in place since the beginning. Budgetary adjustments is also of interest. 50% of our schools reported required budget adjustments, and so you can see some of the qualitative feedback you got there in terms of what they had to do. I won't read all of them in the interest of time, but each, if you'd like to know which school reported which, I'm more than happy to share that with you. But many budgetary adjustments needed to be made. 1 school did report that they did not have to make budgetary adjustments because they were partnered with National Heritage Academy. All right. Community involvement is important to a successful opening, and all schools, all 6, rated community involvement as a 5, 5 being the highest in terms of opening successfully. All 6 schools which opened were NC Access Grant recipients, and weighted lotteries, requiring weighted lotteries this year was the next question. 4 out of the 6, so 66%, indicated that yes, they implemented a weighted lottery this year. Doral did not, Old Main Stream did not, and Summit Creek said it did not need to. Marketing is also always important, particularly during a pandemic, so we asked the schools, given these extraordinary circumstances, what would you share in terms of marketing strategies that were successful for you? And you can see most of them during the pandemic had to pivot to virtual, and they really had to do a lot of outreach. 1 school, Doral, said their administrative team made calls to each potential family, and they said that was very successful for them. Telra said that you needed to be accessible. Parents want to be able to access you at all times. Humanizing your school and building will build positive feelings in your community. So that is valuable feedback for us and for our schools. Last but not least, what should have been covered in RTO at a greater depth or should be added to the RTO process? So you can see at the top, we had a leader who came on later from Asheville Peak. They basically accessed most of the materials we had shared, but they wanted more information on Power School. They said that they had unanticipated issues with Power School. Another school said the process was very comprehensive. A 3rd school, Telra, said they had significant issues with IT, so the various IT systems, staff, UID, Power School, NC Ed Cloud, so we are seeing a pattern here. And then lastly, Doral would like to have more guidance on the financial side of the school, ADM and the request for state cash. They stated it was covered, but additional guidance would have been terrific. So that's good feedback for us for the RTO process in the planning year. And lastly, how can we better serve your school during the opening process? And you can see up there, and again, I won't read them all, but certain requests were made for a little bit more information on grant money. OCS is doing a great job. Another school requests that we be more accessible by allowing schools to book 15-minute calls with them. and reminders of important dates, which is very typical because they really have no central office. And, you know, the weekly OCS office hours and the weekly newsletter for sure. And OCS has been excellent throughout the process. This school, because it is partnered with a large EMO, really asked for differentiating of the RTO process itself. Basically looking at the spectrum of where schools and boards and administrators are, and considering that some of these schools have had experience doing this, not their first rodeo, so consider maybe differentiating the whole process. Are there any questions? Told you it wouldn't be 4 hours. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's an excellent report. Thank you, Claire.
Yes, thank you. Okay, amendments.
We are.
We're cruising.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, let's see who's on here.
That's what happens when you're in chair.
Let's see.
Touch
All right,
down.
so-
Yeah. That's our Alex was dragging us down.
Okay, well, we can start with Metrolina's request. I don't see Huntersville on yet, but I did see Ari. Ari, can you just let us know if you can hear us and if you are available? I'm gonna introduce it, but just let me know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Okay, so our first amendment request for new board members, we usually have these every month, and of course, these are any changes to a charter school application that requires board approval. Some things can be approved in our office, and then others must get your recommendation and must go to state board. So it's a 3-month process at a minimum. So one amendment that we hear quite often, and we're grateful that schools are starting to do this, is the weighted lottery. And we have a school, Metrolina Regional Scholars Academy. They are an NC Access grant recipient. They have been serving kids for over 20 years in Charlotte. And it is a specialized charter school focusing on AIG, on gifted education. They are seeking a weighted lottery. They have set a goal of 15% of the total student population economically disadvantaged. So they are waiting for economically disadvantaged. Currently, they have 2% of their students are economically disadvantaged. So this will hopefully lead to a welcome change in the school and be able to have more children accessing the gifted education. They have put together some great materials on eBoard, and then what has been submitted to you and to state board in terms of how they plan to do this. They will be doing a separate weighted lottery to keep seats open to help them reach that percentage. They also talk about kind of barriers that they've had previously for all students to be able to access that school, and some of those have been not having the room, not having the expansion abilities. They are going to be moving and expanding. They also are planning, because they have, and we see this with several of our charter schools, that they have those kindergarten openings, and then they have such a high retention rate that it's very hard to get new students in. So they add a grade or a class at 3rd grade each year, and that coincides with the 2nd grade universal screening that happens in CMS, so that they can hopefully have more openings for kids that would utilize this. You would want to come to this gifted school. They've also talked about their NC Access grant and what they plan to utilize that money for, and things like transportation and child nutrition and things that they're going to be revising and providing to make sure that they're meeting the needs of all of their scholars. And then we have the head of school on the line to answer any specific questions, because I know this is it's a very unique school with a unique mission, so there might be some different questions than we usually get.
Thank you. I have a question about the universal screener traditionally under-identifies economically disadvantaged children. So if you're trying to target economically disadvantaged children, what are you going to do so that those students get identified? Because if you're using the same system that's already being used, and we already know that doesn't identify those kids, that doesn't solve the problem.
Yes, that's an excellent question, and something that we have been discussing as a school for quite a few years. the research does show that these IQ tests and achievement tests often misidentifying kids who could potentially be eligible for gifted programs. Unfortunately, right now there's not fantastic alternatives that are objective, and it's important that we have a fair, unbiased way of identifying kids. And right now that means testing. Now our testing process, IQ tests are one option for our families, but the other option is a free group test that we give at our school, and that is available to all students. And that's really where we're focusing our marketing efforts, is on getting people to know that they can come take this free test that the school pays for to identify these students. And our process is not just dependent upon those test results. Those test results are considered along with a full packet that includes parent information, teacher information, and then for our older children, self-nominations forms as well.
I have a question, thank you. I have a question regarding transportation. What is your current transportation plan, and how would this need to be adjusted if you are indeed successful to go from 2% to 15%?
Again, transportation is something that we've been talking about for a lot of years. We actually just purchased a second bus with this beginning the Access Grant funding. So with the Access money, we purchased a second bus and have started 2 bus routes. The intention is to continue to build that fleet to be able to provide transportation for any child that needs and wants transportation. Right now, we are not quite there, so this is something that we need to continue to work on. We're going to continue purchasing transportation to make that a reality.
Thank you. This is Lynn Kroger, and I have a question regarding marketing. Can you just speak to how you plan to get the word out and to reach these students and make sure that they do know that this free testing is available and that they can come to the school?
Sure. Yes, my name is Sabrina Leiner. I'm the finance manager here, and I've been very involved with the NC Access application. And so as part of our application, we needed to put together a comprehensive marketing plan. We do have a marketing year in the school that we pay for, and she has a pretty comprehensive targeted marketing plan to reach out into underserved communities. She'll be using targeted ads within radio broadcasts in Hispanic radio stations. She's reached out to Black-owned marketing services that will make sure to reach a broader audience. And so she'll be using some of those types of resources to make sure that we get our information out and make sure that all of the information that someone would need in order to apply to the school they can get, even if it needs to be translated to Spanish. We've had our marketing materials translated, and we can provide those resources as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, so would someone like to make a motion relative to this application for weighted lottery? For amendment for weighted lottery?
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve Metro Atlanta Regional Scholars Academy's request for a weighted lottery.
I second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ari. You are good to go, and I will keep you updated on the state board matters and on your approval, okay?
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, you're welcome. All right, let me see if Miss Nichols is on. Okay. I did email her and let her know that we're running a little bit ahead of schedule. She should be on soon. Would you like me to introduce it? And then she should log on soon, or would you like to maybe take a quick break? It's up to you.
Let's take a quick break, because it's only about 8 minutes before we were expecting her.
Yeah.
Let's take a 10-minute break and
Okay, perfect. All right, you should be good. They're good to talk in here? Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't.
Yeah.
Shelley, I'll be visiting your school next month.
Yay.
Classical liberal
Oh, wonderful.
conference.
Wonderful.
I'll be talking charter schools in North Carolina, isn't that?
It's a real stretch.
Yeah, I gotta do my homework.
Are you doing the panel?
Doing the panel, yeah, I'm chairing a panel that will look at school choice in North and South Carolina. So, my colleague Bob Lupke will be talking about private school choice, and then there's two folks that work in South Carolina that will be doing their school choice. We win, by the way, of course.
Of course.
We're better than South Carolina.
Absolutely.
Like by far.
By far, yeah.
So most of the panel will be them explaining why they're so
Why they're
superior
second.
to us. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm okay with that.
No, but I'm looking forward to it. I was,
This is an expansion site.
Debbie Clary invited me down for graduation because my friend Corey DeAngelis was speaking.
Oh, yes. Mhm.
But was there a holiday that
Yeah,
weekend?
it was a holiday that weekend.
Yeah, so I couldn't make it down for that, and I see Corey all the time, but Corey will be coming down for the conference.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
So you guys are you're conferencing some. Where are you conferencing?
Taking the note out.
Did they do the LeGrand?
What's that?
So where's the conference actually? Is it at LeGrand?
So.
Because I know the lunch and the board is with us.
Yeah.
Y'all are moving.
The theater?
No, Don Gibson.
Yeah.
It's a nice place.
Is it? Yeah. I haven't been.
Quirky.
Okay, all right, well.
I mean, we're not like.
We're a weird,
posh.
it's a weird group, so we'll be
Okay, you'll be
fine.
good. You'll be good.
But no, I'm really looking forward to it.
It'll be a good time.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
And it's a good location because the conferences, they have, in the past, sort of leaned toward the larger
Sure.
cities, in Charleston, this was virtual. So I'm glad we can.
I told Wes, I said, can you not, we're getting ready to start phase 2 of our building, which is gonna be just phenomenal. So can we not just wait a couple of years, like when we have the finished product? He said, maybe we'll have them back. Okay. Okay.
This December.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be nice. It will be a nice conference.
And then give them all.
That's great. And I know Mike Potter.
Yes.
And what a great guy. We talked to him about social studies stuff, and we gathered input about the standards.
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he
I like
is.
1995
Yeah,
better,
so
and I
we,
had it, like.
he was up. He was in town a couple months ago, and so we had him stop by the office. And we chatted him up. And, yeah, we really.
He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Ziegler is amazing. Jeff.
I go
Yes,
to the restaurant,
yes.
of course, the minute you walk
Yeah,
in, somebody can see that with a mask. They didn't
You got some
even
top-notch
know.
folks down there.
Yeah.
Mr. Ziegler reminds me so much. I have a son who's 21, and he's like a little mini Jeff Ziegler, and it cracks me up because Jeff has the most wonderful sense of humor.
Yeah.
But he's so dry.
Yeah, he is.
But when he slides in that, it just cracks. It cracks me up. And then my son is the same way. He's very very dry, but that sense of humor is just on point if you just pay attention, but you have to pay attention.
Yeah.
Jeff, I just love working with him.
Yeah.
He's phenomenal.
Oh, that's
He
great.
is absolutely phenomenal.
We did drop the ball on Stevenson.
So I'm,
We have a picture of Mike last year. We did a Spirit Week, some kind of America Day, but he was like, he had like a whole American flag suit and top and bottom. It's so out of character for him. We walked in, I was like, is that Mr. Connie? It was so out of character for him. It was fantastic.
yeah, I could see how that'd be out of character. It just seems so like,
He is straight laced.
Straight-laced, yeah.
So when that, but that, I mean, he's really kind of coming to his own there and
Yeah.
just really branching out with relationships with the kids, and it's been
yeah, just talking to him about it, you can tell he's
Brilliant
like
man.
absolutely loves it. And he is
Brilliant
brilliant.
man.
Yeah. So
And
I,
I jokingly say when Jeff Ziegler, when he speaks, my IQ goes down. Like just being in a room with him, I think I'm dumber just being here with him. He is just incredible brain, just
yeah.
incredible. So yeah, we do have a lot of great people.
The county gave us land.
So what kind of expansion is planned?
So, we are in the current building we moved into in 2017.
Okay.
And it was meant to be
It hasn't started this year.
K-12.
Okay.
So our K-2
And I'm
just
sitting there and I got turned down.
boom.
Yeah.
So we bought the building that they are in and left them
Them
at that building.
Okay.
That's where I started, at the K-2 building. And so the building that we're in now is 4th through 12th grade.
Okay.
Was meant for K-12, and we're out of space. 2 years.
It's 6 weeks before school starts. That's
We've only been open, I mean, that building's only been open since 17.
I'm not lying. I got
It's
married
amazing.
that June.
It's amazing. So building some classroom space.
Yeah.
I was in Aruba and
Yeah.
then went to my
Yes.
profession. Get to go there.
And it's gonna be nice to, right now we have the,
The GC has an
that's
old ones that had
a
everything.
grand
Waiting for
from
us to
4th
say we
grade
got
to
the
12th grade. We
Natasha.
keep them separated by
We got the
floors,
GC.
but
Yeah.
this will be nice to be able
she's
to
from
just
State-
have.
She's Huntersville.
State
that
Senate District
separation
41.
2
between-
days before.
Are you pulling in a lot of kids from surrounding counties, or is it?
We are now, of course, this year we're moving towards
Yeah.
ridiculous, but yeah, we're about 5 counties. We would pull, the majority, 80% from
Well, that'll
the
happen first week of July, and then 6 weeks later, 2 days before open house. We are our board, one person, movie theater, we were famous, and then I had a hotel, we were starting
Sure.
Continues.
last year.
I was getting really worried.
No.
saw, let me. I saw Jennifer Nichols online. So Jennifer, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce your amendment, and then you, and your board chair, if you'd like to, take questions, you guys can, take questions, you guys can.
Okay, are we?
One
Okay.
second, Jennifer. One second. Jennifer, will you mute for a second? Jennifer, will you
Sure.
mute for a second? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Somebody else in the room.
So Jennifer, stay muted for a second, and you're getting really loud feedback. It's most likely because if you have two computers or a computer and a phone on at the same time in the same room, you will get feedback. So can you just make sure that when you do speak that you have only one device going and logged into the meeting at the same time? Like if you and your board member both have it going, you will cause feedback. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and introduce it. Okay, so this is an amendment request from the board of Huntersville Charter High School. This school is currently in its first year delay. So our office can approve first year delays, and we did approve almost exactly a year ago a 1 year delay for this school based on facility issues and kind of COVID related delays, which we obviously saw last year quite a bit. The school is now coming back for a second year delay. So you can see in the materials where they've outlined kind of the 5-year projection chart. So if this delay is approved, which requires your recommendation and requires state board approval, it will go to state board next month, then they would only have 3 years on their charter. They would start year 3 of the charter in year 2023 with a projection of 210 students. So it's a high school trade program, and it's a fairly small enrollment. And then their 5th year of their charter, they would have 9th through 12th graders with an estimated enrollment of 410 students. Along with this second 1 year delay, they are requesting a name change, which our office can approve, but sometimes we bring them to you just if it's part of a package. And they are hoping to change their name from Huntersville Charter High School to Aspire Trade High School. They've stated that having the name Huntersville in the school has caused some issues in the city, and they can speak more to that. But we wanted them to come here today to talk more about the delay request, as a second year delay is pretty rare, and it's something that does require your recommendation. They would be best suited to explain exactly where they're at in the timeline for opening and what has caused that delay. So I'm going to open it up for questioning now, and hopefully, Jennifer, you guys have worked out the tech issues in the room, and we'll continue.
Let's start with asking Ms. Nichols to explain what's going on with this and why they're asking for a second year delay, why they feel like they need that.
Okay, thank you. Is that better? I turned my volume down.
That's better, yes.
Better? Good. Yeah, so there's a whole host of issues for us in terms of wanting the second year delay. We need to build the building, and a lot of the gifts that we had and the money, the financial picture for us is secure at this point. We don't owe anything on the land. We don't owe anything on the first school that's up. We don't owe anything on the work that's been done, but we will need to borrow some for this building. And so we need to raise a portion of that as well. And we had a lot of those gifts that were earmarked for us that ended up going toward COVID. So because COVID, a lot of the people that we needed to get to, we were not able to see during that period of time, the high wealth individuals and folks that we wanted to become involved with the school. The other thing is that we needed to get to all of our stakeholders and trade partners. And we've really been able to make traction since the beginning of this year, but really had difficulty making that traction last year, getting to people, having in-person meetings, getting people to our campus to see what we were trying to accomplish. As you can see, I've got the posters behind me. I just got to the Carolinas Electrical Contractors Association on Friday. There were a lot of main groups we needed to get to that we had trouble getting in front of. We've been able to get in front of the North Carolina Apprenticeship, and lots of groups now that we can get in front of that we were not able to get in front of before, that we need as partners. Also the community colleges, trying to get in front of them as well to form partnerships with them that would help us with this, with the trade aspect of our school.
Tell me how you think it will be different this year since we're still dealing with COVID.
Well, we're actually, yes, thank you for asking that. We actually are in front of people now. I know that seems odd, but a lot of the people we were trying to get to were early vaxxers this spring, and so we were able to start getting to them. So we've gotten in front of a lot of them, and we've gotten in front of groups. So groups are still meeting. They're just taking more precautions, but because so many people, I hate to say it, in the age group that we're talking to, but in many ways that's true. A lot of those people were early vaxxers, and we've been able to get in front of them, which has been kind of critical for us. We've actually even been able to host some of those groups on our campus, like the North Carolina Apprenticeship Group. So whether that will change in the next couple of months, I don't know, but we've been able to get in front of a lot of people since January, which has really increased our momentum.
Okay, so you've talked a lot about donors, you've talked a lot about partners. What about student recruitment? What's happening with that?
Yeah, so the website is up, and we have a portion on there for people to let us know that they're interested for more information so we can get to them. And we're also, we had already started campaigning with some of the groups that we were hoping to get in front of. There's a group that works with a large Hispanic population around the corner from us, and they have been working with about 300 families, and they're not very far from the school. So we started working with them before the pandemic hit, and have reconnected to start working with them again. Also, the Ada Jenkins Center, which is in Davidson, that works with a lot of the low-income families, we've gotten back in touch with them. So we've moved our recruitment up by working with some of those folks, as well as we've gotten some of the churches down on Beatties Ford Road that we're starting to work with. So we've been able to get back to some of the people that we had already started having conversations and relationship with. And one of the things that we did with our website is we have a button on there that if you hit that button, it actually changes the whole thing over to Spanish, so that the folks, our Latino folks, will be able to read everything on the website. So we were trying to be really sensitive to some of the groups that we're trying to contact and get in front of. And so we wanted to make sure that website would do that for us as well. So yeah, we've been pushing that up pretty hard since January to help us with that. We're also doing, we're starting to work on the merchandise side, this side of the store and side of the website, excuse me. And so getting some information out, but also getting things out that have the name, which is why we wanted to make sure that we could clear that today with you.
I have a question, just clarifying. So the original, and it's meant for the Office of Charter Schools, this is Mr. Friend. Originally they were scheduled to open fall of this year, correct? And then we gave them a 1-year delay for fall of 2022. So this would be this is now requesting to open in fall of 2023, correct?
Yes, they would have opened, let's see, they were scheduled to open 21, yeah, this year.
This year.
So they're in their delay for this year, and then they would have another delay for next year, a whole nother year.
And what was the original enrollment again? You said 210. 210. So as we sit here today, how many applications or / strongly vetted applicants do you have for your school?
We have not started accepting applications. We wanted to wait until after the meeting today, and then we'll start accepting applications. We want to make sure that we can actually do what we say we can do. And so we didn't want to jump out there this summer and start accepting applications if we weren't sure we were going to get the second year delay.
So am I to infer then that if you don't get the second year delay, you're not going to open up next year?
Correct.
I guess we're a year out almost from when you were supposed to open with the delay. So I guess I'm not, and you tell me you're getting in front of the people you need to get in front of, you're connecting with groups. So I'm not understanding why you need a year and an additional year.
To build the building and to get our trade partners so that we can actually do the trades we want to do in the labs.
When did you
The
realize
whole premise
that
of the
building
school
was
is
gonna
as
be
a
an
trade
issue?
school, we have to have our trade partners in HVAC and plumbing and electrical and the other areas that we're going to do. We have to be able to put the trades in place as well.
I thought you said that you had connected with those people now.
We have connected, but we need to secure the partnerships for each particular lab.
And that's going to take 2 years?
To start each of the programs and make sure that we have the particular instructor for each, yes, we would prefer to have the 2 years. We have to have a place to have this school that is appropriate. We do not want to put this school in a church or in portables. It just would not work for the school that we intend to be. And the quality of the school that we intend to be. We are starting out with 9 labs, and that's really important to us. So we need that brand new building with the 9 labs in it. And then our trade partners to be within those labs to bring the equipment and to help us secure the right curriculum for the students, as well as the apprenticeships that they will be doing. Lauren, thank you for coming on. I wanted to make sure that I acknowledge Lauren Nicholson as our board chair, and would like to give her a chance to speak. Lauren, did you hear the question?
Good morning. I came in at the tail end of the question on it taking 2 years to establish the trades. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I think Jennifer covered that well. Our goal here is, look, we're a not-for-profit, we're mission-based, and our goal is to educate students and feel really confident that we can do a good job achieving our goal. So in addition to what Jennifer said, I would just add that really is our focus. There isn't a template or a model for this, so we're being thoughtful and meticulous about how we put this program together because we believe it's really needed in the community, and we want to get it right.
When you came before us initially to apply for the school, you would have had this amount of time to do exactly what you're now saying you need 3 years to do. If we take out the COVID year, you're still saying you need an additional year. So are you saying that when you applied, what you thought you were going to be able to do, you couldn't have done in the amount of time anyway?
I don't know that I would say that. Because had we not had issues with COVID coming on, we probably would have had the building up.
Jennifer, there may be other things you want to add. I think the biggest impediment, COVID wasn't a year. We all know that. The biggest impediment was our fundraising. So as an organization, we are not willing to debt finance 100% of the building. Without additional time, that just isn't possible. We are not able to raise the money we need in this COVID environment and get the building built without debt financing. So we will have to take on debt. We're comfortable taking on 50% of the project cost with debt financing and no more. So that's really where we are.
So, so if you're not able to raise the rest of the money, then you will relinquish the charter and not open?
We feel really confident with what we have going on. With a little bit of extra time, we'll be able to do that. So that isn't a decision that we've crossed. We feel like we've got a lot of federal grants that other schools aren't eligible to participate in. We've got a lot of traction that are things that are new that have just come on our radar in the last 3 or 4 months. So we feel really good about where we are, getting to approximately $10 million in funds raised. But we haven't, I mean, to answer your question specifically, we have not crossed that bridge. We feel good about where we are if we were able to get an extension.
I have a comment and a question. That the comment is that my boys go to a Wake County's career and technical high school, and their programs are housed in a refurbished warehouse that's behind a refurbished Coca-Cola bottling plant. So I don't know what kind of specific specifications that you have in mind for building a school when all that's required is space and you know, Wake County has a career and technical education program that they've been able to successfully implement in a refurbished space. But that aside, can you talk about the name change? Huntersville is a lovely town, and I don't quite understand why there is some sort of problem with having the name Huntersville in your name. And this is just out of curiosity why that's necessary, and how is that proven to be a barrier to your efforts to try to get community partners in place?
I'll jump in quick, and then Jennifer, you can follow. I don't think it's an extreme barrier in terms of getting community partners in place. It goes back to the fundraising. So a big part of our fundraising is a naming opportunity. That's a $5 million opportunity for us. So with the name Huntersville currently in there, we, as donors, look at that. That's an impediment for us. So that's number one. Number two, having the town of Huntersville in the name doesn't show our regional emphasis. So we're really going to draw from 5 counties: Gaston, Lincoln, Iredell, Cabarrus, and Mecklenburg. And therefore, having Huntersville becomes a little bit more limiting. So those were the 2 things that I would say. Jennifer, I'm sure you have some things to add.
Yeah, we don't want to be portrayed as a municipal school with some of the issues that Huntersville got mired in with the district in terms of municipal schools. And we've had a lot of questions about that. Are we a municipal school? And so we realized in the last year that we were getting so many questions from potential stakeholders about were we not a municipal school, and was this school coming out of the big brouhaha that had happened with Mecklenburg County. And so it just seemed all the way around, for multiple reasons, a better idea to come away from the Huntersville name. There is a very competitive nature to Huntersville Cornelius Davidson. Some of those folks have had struggles with the fact that we're calling it Huntersville. So it's just been brought up multiple times as we've had stakeholder conversations. And so for all of those reasons, we just felt it was better just to change, take Huntersville out of it. We're still in Huntersville. We're not gonna take the school out of Huntersville. We're just going to mute that a little bit and give us a more regional focus.
So based on what you said a few minutes ago, am I to understand that you really are not planning to call the school Aspire either? That's like a placeholder name?
Well, we plan to call the school Aspire Trade High School, but there is a naming opportunity down the road for someone should they choose to do that. We're looking for a partner that has been connected to trades that might be a great naming partner for us, that could continue to be part of the school going forward. But that's not a guaranteed thing. Many donors want to remain anonymous, so we want to make sure that we have a name that we can live with.
I'd like to go back on the timeline again, if I may. This is Mr. Friend. So you would have opened originally, presumably this fall, last month. So that charter would have been approved in 2019, which obviously, you know, for those of us who have done this, everyone here, that means you've been working on this for many years before that even. So in the original charter, the plan was to have a facility that was ready to go in 2021. And then we were told, no, we can't open in 2021, we have to go to 2022 because the facility isn't ready. And now we can't open in 2022 because the facility isn't going to be ready until 2023. You know, I think if we had, I know we can't have this level of foresight, but I mean, an integral part of getting your charter application approved back in 2019 is to have a solid facilities plan. And this will be 4 years. And it still sounds like we sit here today after year 3 and you still can't say beyond the shadow of a doubt that you have the facility. So I guess that's not really a question, it's just are my facts correct on that?
I understand the concerns. When we purchased the property, we did not realize that we were going to run into some of the difficulties that we had. The DOT issues, the land issues, trying to get to sewer and water. I mean, it just became a much more complicated site than we were expecting. We had to go 1,700 feet to get to sewer. There were just a lot of issues with the site itself. It's turned out to be a wonderful site, but it did take quite a bit of time to get it prepared to do the build. And so even though the work has now been completed, it has just taken a very, very long time. And I don't know that we could have anticipated all of that.
Mr. Sanchez.
This is Eric Sanchez. I just would like you to just quickly summarize what you do have, what you have accomplished in this time. I'm hearing 10 million, I'm hearing partnerships, but like not what you're in pursuit of, but what actually do you have right now as infrastructure that you can expand upon?
Okay, thank you for asking that. I appreciate it. So we have 25 acres. We have a building on that. Our office is in that building. That's a school that's in its 3rd year now and doing very well. We've done 15 acres of mass grading, the water and sewer, everything is on site. We've done our retention ponds, the DOT, the site plan, the building plan is complete, the building permit and construction company's all been secured, and the site is pad ready to build. So we completed the mass grading in June of last year.
All that with no debt. We have no debt.
All of that with no debt. So in that time, we also started working on looking for some school administration. We've got 2 of our board members are potential administrators for the school. We've worked on branding, our logo, all of that is complete. All of our branding efforts are secure. Our website is up, our Facebook is up, our Instagram is up. We've been very thoughtful in terms of our partnerships. We've gone out to major corporations as well as construction membership organizations, ABC, North Carolina Apprenticeship. We've started working with the community colleges. We've done a lot of prep work in terms of our relationships we want to do. We're working with the EDCs from the different counties. We've asked them what else we should add besides the electrical, plumbing, and have come away with some other ideas that we're exploring, like CNC machinist, linemen, fabricators, quality control. So we're really digging in deep on our partnerships and our stakeholders all the way around. So I feel like we've done a lot of work. Lauren, have I missed some things?
Did you touch on the website, Jennifer? I think the website is a key one too.
Yes, so the website, as well as the other social media aspects, are all up and running, and the website itself will help us to drive some of our student efforts, as well as we've started really working with some of our EDCs on some new funding, and that's the grants that are available under the EDA program. So we're excited about that. We've been working with Hillary Sherman out of Atlanta, who's working with the federal government on these grants, and our local EDA partners, as well as the town of Huntersville, to potentially secure grants that would help us.
Dave, can you clarify the facility, like the private school is that? I don't think I understand. I'm walking in late. So.
That's exactly where I went. Me too.
I can't hear that. I'm sorry.
We're asking a question of the staff just to kind of get
They have
clarification.
20-some acres in the Huntersville area that has a school on it for, I believe it's for students with special needs, and their plan was to build this vocational high school on that same site. They have chosen to do fundraising to try to get, like she said, 50% of their costs before they started building. That's their land process. They have the land that the private school is on right now, where their offices are, and they want to build the school on that same property.
And they need $10 million to do so.
Yes, yeah. And I'm not quite sure where they are in their student enrollment conversations.
They said no.
Yeah.
She said they were just.
Is the private school up and running?
Won't until after they.
Yes, the private school is,
The Halton School, is it?
I'm not sure what the name of it is, but it is running. She should be able to answer that question for you.
They run that school too?
Yeah, it's theirs. Can you tell us a little bit about the school that's on the property? We have some new people on our board who weren't here when you applied.
The Halton School is a 3rd through 8th grade school for kids with Asperger's or the traits of Asperger's. So that's the school that's up and running. We started that school in 2019, and this is our 3rd year. We did actually have students that were in school last year 5 days a week, and they are again this year, although we've had a COVID case. So right now we're doing remote learning. Well, they're back today. So that's been very successful. That's part of the brand, is that we really have done an extraordinary job. And I think, Lauren, I'm going to let you talk to that. That's part of the brand of excellence. That is what's driving us to push this back a little bit.
Speak to the Halton School specifically, Jennifer? Yeah, so at the Halton School over the last 3 years, we've had tremendous success. We started with a head of school and 2 teachers. We have 4 teachers now. 22 students are we at, Jennifer? 22 students. Our parents are as happy as could be. The students are progressing well, having experiences that they haven't had, social interactions that just, really weren't available to them before. So the school itself has been a tremendous success. The administration and the board have worked in tandem to create that. And so we have the capacity now. That school is fully operational. And as a board, we have the capacity to move our efforts and focus on this trade high school. And of course, we have a separate board that is really assisting us with that. So Jennifer and I are liaisons to the Aspire Carolinas Foundation Board, and then working with this trade school board as well.
So this is Lynn Kroger. I just have a question. I just want to clarify. So this private school, you just opened it in 2019. So at the time that this application was approved, you were opening this private school, is that correct?
Yes. It was always the plan to have multiple schools on the campus. And so the first one was started in the fall of 2019, but it's always the plan to have multiple schools.
This is Todd Godby. On your website, it talks about 3 schools. Another one is a K-12 school for students with learning differences. Will this be a private? Will that be private as well? Because I see the Halton School, I see a K-12 school, and I see the trade school that we're referencing.
I don't have the answer to that one yet. We have not made a determination whether that will be a private or whether that will be a charter. So that's still several years down the road. So a decision has not been made. We know we're going to put that school there. I can't tell you which way that will go.
And how many board members do you all have?
On the trade school board?
Yes.
5.
Do they overlap with the board members from the Halton School?
Currently, we do. Our plan is to make sure that we get the okay to go into the 2nd year, and then we're going to roll another of the Aspire board members off and add another board member. Currently, we have 3 board members that overlap and 2 that do not, but it is our plan to roll another board member off and put another individual that's just going to be for the trades high school. We were doing both and decided this year that it was time to go ahead and split the board.
Dr. Eldridge?
Yeah, this is John Eldridge. So I just want to make sure in the conversation we had, have you started construction or have a date set for when construction is going to start?
We have not started construction, except that we've done all the pre-construction things like the mass grading. So we've started construction in the sense that we've done all the prep work, which it normally would be done after construction began with the company, but we've done that ahead of time to get a jump on it. So we've done some of the construction things that you would typically do at the very beginning of your construction project.
Do you have a date for when you're gonna start?
Our hope is
building
to
the
start
building?
in May.
May of
The
2022?
1st of May.
May of 2022, okay. And is this because you are still in the course of fundraising?
Yes. Also, we're if we get the grant from the federal government, it will require us to go back out to the bid process. So we're in the process of seeing if those grants are available to us, and we should know that at the beginning of the week, actually in the next couple of days.
Do you have a magic number of what you guys need before you can get started, or are you if you don't get that number, are you considering loans or something else so
Yes,
that you can secure
we need
financing?
10 million in pledges.
10 million, okay.
So
I thought they had, I'm sorry, I just misunderstood. I thought you already had 10 million. So the number that you're trying to reach is 10 million.
Yes.
Okay.
So if I understand correctly, you indicated earlier that you were willing to take on 50% debt. So do I understand that to mean that it's going to cost $20 million to build the building? You've raised $0. You need $10 million.
No, we've
to
raised
start
over $1 million.
I'm sorry?
We've raised over $1 million that's in the bank, but we'd like to raise another 10 in pledges.
Okay.
And the project cost is $20 million, you're correct.
Okay.
A couple just quick clarifying questions. I'm looking at your application. You're still looking at the 65,000 square foot facility, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, and in your plan here, it suggested that if you were to have difficulty, it says, we feel confident in our timeline here, but if there's major issues, we will rent space in an area until the facility is completed. Is that no longer an option?
That's not an option we want to explore at this time.
Sound like you did previously. Anyhow, the other thing you put in here is that it's a 14-month schedule. And I think I just heard that this is a 2023 potential start. 14 months from May of 2022 puts you really tight. Any delays, anything like that would put you past.
We actually changed that schedule when we did the mass grading, put in the retention ponds, and brought the water and sewer onto the campus. So it'll be a 12-month schedule because we've done so much of the big mass projects on the grounds already. That took us 3.5 months to complete.
One last clarifying question. So you have $1 million pledged. Do you have building plans, architectural drawings, all that done already?
Everything's done, DOT work, the building permit, the architectural plans, everything is completed.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's,
Mr. Friend.
go ahead.
One last question on the finance, Mr. Friend again on the financing. So you're trying to raise this entire 10 million through pledges. Have you had conversation? I mean, there's any number of organizations out there that help fund charter school construction. Are you not? Have you had conversations with whether it's BB&T or anyone else that might help put your building up?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That's a great question. We have a strategic partner, and Lauren, I'm going to let you talk to that because this is based on what our strategic partner, our financial strategic partner, is saying is the best avenue for us. So, Lauren.
Sure, absolutely. So you're right. We are very familiar with BB&T and all of the banks that will 100% debt finance this project for us. So we know that avenue is available. What we are concerned about is our ability to repay that, given that we are going to limit the enrollment and really focus on educating these students that really need us. And so we don't want to put more students in the building than we can educate just to repay debt and interest. So we have talked. In fairness, though, I'm with Bank of America. This is what I do. to. We have talked to Bank of America. We have talked to BB&T when they were still BB&T, and then we talked to them again when they were Truist. What we decided to do was hire a financial advisor. That was really important to us to make sure that we were striking that right balance between how much could we repay, feel good about our mission, and ultimately debt finance. So our our financial advisor is First Tryon. They have done all of the modeling for us, and they are actually recommending no more 9 to 10 million is the max from a long-term repayment capacity. So in fairness, we've met with 3 or 4 banks. We've talked through that. We have people that are willing, to do 100%. We're not comfortable at that level from a long-term debt capacity perspective.
Okay.
We don't have an endowment. We don't expect to have an endowment. We're challenged from that perspective.
All right, I want to close down the questioning and give the board a chance to talk.
Can I ask one more?
Sure, go ahead.
So what is your plan for this additional 10 million of raised money? Have you engaged a fundraising firm? Like, what is? It is September, and
right.
If by May you have to raise an additional $10 million, I'd like to know that you have a Gantt chart and a plan.
We do, and thank you for asking that. We have, the board has been very, very active. The Aspire board has actually been very active in seeking relationships and partnerships. So we're meeting with a group of high wealth individuals as well as some organizations. So we feel very confident besides that and the federal government grants and the grants that we're looking at are the EDA grants. And what's interesting about them is that there's a rolling timeline, so you don't have to wait for 6 months. And so all of that together, yes, we feel very confident that we're going to be able to do this. Some of the individuals that we're talking with have already pledged to help. We've just got to get the numbers down. We don't know what the exact figures are, and we're not willing to guess at those.
John, there was just a question on student enrollment. I know you say you haven't started applications yet, but I do know from experience that getting 11th and 12th grade students to leave the high schools that they currently belong to and have been a part of for a while is a challenge. So of your 210 students in the first year, what are your thoughts on just that and how you're going to try and hit that 210 number? Because if funding is going to be tight, you're going to need 210 kids the first year.
Right, and we're only doing freshmen and sophomores, so each year we'll add more freshmen. Right. We don't intend to do juniors and seniors. Anyway, our goal is to do freshmen and sophomores, so we'll be working hopefully with the middle schools this year and doing a lot of work on the campus, bringing them over to have trade days and things on campus that would bring them in. So
I missed that on the upload. I didn't see that anywhere. I just may have missed that in reading. I did not know you were starting with 9th and 10th. Okay.
9th and 10th only.
Okay.
And then each year adding 9th.
What federal grant is this that will allow you to spend it on facility?
EDA grants, there's 3 that we're looking at, and they're all about workforce development. So we fall right into that category where they've not worked with a school, so this is new for them, but they're excited about the potential of helping us with this program because it's going to make a huge difference in our region. So the fact that we're working with employers that would then apprentice our students, and we're actually doing very specific high need areas, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, potentially CNC machining, fabrication, things that are really needed in our region. That's where, and some of the CARES money went into those EDA programs, so there is money available. So that's what we're discussing.
Well, there's money available for program, but there's money available for program, but generally federal grants will not let you pay for a facility.
These are actually made for building. It's often what the municipalities go after, the same kinds of grants. So they are for construction.
Okay, so let's open it up to comments from the board. What are you guys thinking?
It's a lot to digest. I'm trying to filter and see exactly what they need. Exactly what they need. for the second year delay. And I can't summarize what they need. So I need help.
I'm also disappointed in the 2 years that they've had their charter, what little they have accomplished at this point. That I'm not even convinced that if they even got the 1 year delay, that they would still be able to open.
To have been working for 2 years and have $1 million and looking from September to May to raise another 10 million, I think is a huge undertaking.
Have we had, in recent memory, Mr. Machado, granted any two-year delays? I know we didn't grant one earlier this spring, or a second-year delay. But I'm trying to remember in recent past if we've had any that were approved.
So you asked, have we had any other applications asked for a 2-year delay
Second
that's
year.
been approved by the State Board of Ed?
Yeah, in recent memory.
We've had 2.
Okay.
One was Wake Prep and one was
That's
North
right.
Raleigh.
Yeah.
And North Raleigh has just announced that they're relinquishing that charter.
And the Wake Prep one was because they were in litigation with they were gonna have to go into litigation over the site.
They had to move to another county.
Another county because the issue with the site.
Yeah, I believe I recall one from earlier this spring too, where they were requesting a second-year delay, and one of the reasons we did not grant that one. That was the one in Cary, I believe, the CE Academy, if I remember
Right.
correctly. They had very low enrollment even after a year and a half. This one has 0 enrollment, if I remember that correctly.
We had another application that they didn't actually ask for a second-year delay, but you did recommend that they weren't ready to open.
That's what
That
it
was
was.
CE.
That's right. Thank you for correcting it.
Because they had very little students.
I guess what I'm struggling with is that it's not on the merits of whether the school is needed or could be successful. I think that that's already been determined. They've been before CSAB, they've been before the state board, and it's been determined that there's a compelling need for this school. But I just can't get over the timeline. I mean, the original approval was in 2019. So even before that, you would have theoretically done some work about figuring out where your school was going to be. And now we sit 2 years later, and we've already given them a year delay. And we're at least 4 years into this, and I would say 5, that they don't have a facility situation resolved. Again, I don't think it's on the merits of the application or a statement on the hard work that they're doing to put into this, but it seems like this may have been one that should have relinquished and then got their finances together, got their facility together, then come back and say, now we're really ready. Instead of asking us to, give us yet another year delay, and we still don't have all these T's crossed and I's dotted yet.
I'd say that in the COVID year, and given that you need to have your ducks in order July 1st, right? Like, it's not like you can, like, school years start on time and end time. It's not like you can ask for 6 months or 18 months or da-da-da. I could understand, I actually could even understand the second year request, but then you come in and there's no, I think Mr. Stoops had a great point of, like, if you look at their facility plan, you're talking about like culinary kitchens and, massive, like, just a massive undertaking of, like, that's what 20 million buys you, right? But they have land, they have a space, they have some money pledged. I'm just surprised there's a lack of creativity to come back and say, hey guys, listen, it's been a tough year. We've decided we're gonna put something temporary up while we raise funds, get this thing started. And as we raise funds, we have 20-something acres, we'll start building the dream place, and like a lot of us have done. I'm just surprised there's nothing suggesting that. And you mix that with the fact that I just found out that they had started their other school at a similar time. It feels like a group that's in over their head. It feels like they probably had some issues with the other thing. They had to get that stabilized during this COVID year. They didn't get to make as much headway as they wanted to with the charter, and now they're kind of trying to figure it out, and it doesn't evoke a lot of confidence.
This is Rita Hare. Can you hear me?
Hi, Rita.
Hi. I would say that I think in the business world, as well as in the education world, we've experienced about 18 months of COVID, and the consequences, the ramifications of everything that it has caused, including very long lead times for just the smallest of things you try to get from city workers, inspections, surveys. We've experienced some of that. Lead times are incredibly long. If they were building now or required to build now, material costs are exponentially higher than they were 6 months ago, than they were 8 or 9 months ago. It's crazy, really, the pricing and the costing materials. I would hope that it would be better around May or June if they actually started construction. They would pay exponentially more currently if they tried to build this building. This is a very unique model and very needed. I think it could be, as you've already stated, a great attribute to that community. And they're trying to do it debt-free, which is commendable because that creates a lot less stress later and anxiety later as you're running the program. That allows you to focus on the things that are important. They also want to do what they do with excellence. I've heard that. They don't want to throw together a temporary building and try to start something because of the time frame. And they also don't have a model or a template. They're breaking new ground and they're building this as they go. So I tend to feel more leniency for the time frame because of all of these factors that have affected them. Just wanted to put that out there. Thank you.
And along the lines of what Rita was saying, I couldn't help but think that the amount of money that's already been invested into this property and the work that's been done up to this point, and you have over $1 million sitting in an account that's been raised, it's going to me, I don't know if you look at a consultant that helps everybody get organized and try and come up with a timeline that's feasible, that says here's what we can do and we can't do, to his point of organization. But I would think that, as Rita was saying too, that and just trying to get desks. I mean, desks are 10 months out. You know, it's crazy, you know. And so we find ourselves in unprecedented times. But at the same time, I do acknowledge that it seems weird that it's taken 4 years for us to get to this point, 5 years as you had said. But at the same time, I would think maybe with a little extra support, I don't know if the school needs to consider consultants or someone to come in that has been down this road and put a feasible timeline together about what you can and can't do. And you may wanted a brick building, but now you can make a steel building in half the time and maybe not as much cost. It's some other creativity that needs to go into this that maybe not has been considered. But my concern is that they put so much time and material into this, and now it's on us to decide whether or not either they get an extension or not.
But if we give the extension and they still can't get it together, because $10 million is a whole bunch of money to raise, then they put more time and money into it, and then they're going to have to. There is no such thing as a third-year extension, so they're belly up. I'm not feeling a level of confidence that after 4 years you're at essentially some cleared land and a sewer and no children, and that a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, it's going to be any better, that you're going to have this done. All these things that we're talking about, construction, all those delays, all that's still real. And if you start in May, you may or may not get it done in 12 months. I haven't found anybody, including us, who got stuff done in the amount of time that it was said that it ought to be able to be done. I'm not totally confident they could pull this off. I don't know how much I don't know that we lose anything by giving them the time. I think that they could end up with a whole bunch of money invested in and not be able to get a third year and not be ready.
That's exactly right. And they're the ones that would be taking that risk on. I guess our question is there any harm done other than that? If they want to assume that risk and have confidence they can go forward, what is the harm done in the extension?
This is Mr. Friend again. I appreciate, Ms. Hare, all you're saying, and Mr. Eldridge, everyone's comments, but I mean, part of the application process to get a charter school in the state of North Carolina is have a secured, viable facility plan. If you don't have that, you don't get past go. And they're 4 years into it and they're not past go. So are we saying for future applications that if you don't have a facilities plan, we'll just move you along anyways? And let's see what happens and the onus is on you?
And if you take into account when we got the application, they gave the impression that they had a solid facility plan. We would not have approved an application for a facility if they had said, well, we're gonna build it when we can raise $10 million. We would never have approved that for a facility plan.
Right, and to Mr. Sanchez's point, I think what we're missing, what I'm lacking is a backup plan, right? So I think the school is amazing, and I hope like the dickens that it happens. But to be September and the plan B, we hope we raise $10 million by May, so that we can do this is tough for me. Without a backup plan that says, okay, we are willing to finance the whole thing, and we'll fundraise like heck to pay down debt. Or that says we're going to hire a fundraising company and build and build out an apparatus, or that says we're willing to move into a temporary facility for the first year or two if we have to, if we don't get there. But I think what I'm missing is the backup plan. If this really audacious, fantastic idea doesn't work out quite right.
And I would just piggyback off that the issue of federal grants and the availability of federal money to be able to do this, without any of those details, I'm skeptical of the amount of federal money that is available for this, but do we have any details about that from the school?
They just said that they would, they'll know within the next few days whether they're even eligible for this grant.
Okay.
I think this would be a really different request if they were like, listen, we're going to give it a go for these next couple of months, and if it doesn't happen, here's our fail-safe, right? Like, we built partnerships with some of these groups that we can bring our kids there for labs and things like that, and we can have just the straight-up classrooms on site while we're getting ready to raise money. But I mean, how many capital campaigns have you seen that you have 1/10 of the money, and they basically need to raise $1 million a month just to hit their May start date and get the bulldozers going? $1 million a month. Like, how many? I wouldn't put myself in it. Like, none of us would. That's crazy.
Is anybody prepared to make a motion?
Can I ask what our options are within this? If there doesn't seem to be, like, there's this feeling that seems like it's there of like, if we say yes, you don't lose much. But I'm wondering, is there contingencies or different things? Can we mandate a contingency plan for facilities? Is there something that can be included if we were to give that year for those of us who are considering that?
Whenever you do, as part of our delay approval process, there are certain stipulations that are placed on schools. So for example, one of those is that they provide our office with a monthly report on things like construction timelines, enrollment, things like that. You can make that as a board as specific as you want, but we do have a process in office to make sure that we are getting monthly updates, that we receive monthly board meeting minutes, or how, their board meeting minutes that we review as part of the RTO process to make sure that they're meeting and to have an idea of what might be happening, and if there's any kind of red flags or things that we need to try to support them through.
And marketing is also part of that.
So what would be, is there any reason that we absolutely have to approve or disapprove this right now? Could we say, you go out and continue to try to raise money, talk to us in 3 months, where are you in 3 months with this?
Not from our side of things. I'm assuming they have requested it now to help with the fundraising, but they would have to speak to that. We've approved delays sometimes that are, a couple months out from when they're supposed to open. So for us, there's no rules in terms of when the delay needs to take place.
I would think if we're gonna approve this, it definitely has to be approved with stipulations. Or we need to say, let's give this some time and come back and talk to us, because technically, they still can open in the fall. So they're not in danger of losing their charter at this point or anything like that. So I would suggest that we say, let's see how it goes. Come back to us in a few months and say, you know, this is where we are. And yes, we think we're gonna be able to pull this off, or no, we're not.
Well, they did say if we don't approve this delay today, that they were gonna rescind the charter. Now, maybe they'll think twice about that, but we're not pulling the charter. They still have the ability to have a contingency in place to open in August, September of 2022. Granted, there probably are, I'm assuming, as Ashley said, indicating that the second year delay gives them more runway for getting donations, but you know, we're also not the final authority on this. We have to be able to defend this in front of the State Board of Ed, and is the State Board of Ed going to approve a second year delay, even if we recommend it? They got to have more rationale. I'll just say that if this is approved, they have 1 month to get more data and more information than they presented today to prove to the state board that they deserve a second year delay.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not comfortable personally at this point approving this. I'm open to stretch it out. I'm open to conditions, but to straight up say you can go to 2023, I wouldn't be comfortable voting for that right now.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Cheryl, and maybe not approving it now and just giving it a few months, because this is a heavy lift and they do need to make a lot of progress between now and May. And I think in a few months we can see what progress they have made to even see if a 1 year delay would even be feasible, because it may not even be feasible to do another.
I agree with that, and it's fair.
I think some of the information, the things that he was talking about earlier about contingency plans and backup plans to be a little bit more clear and maybe open to other funding sources as opposed to just fundraising. And if they were able to come back and say, you know, in a couple months, as you had suggested, that we had thought through other facilities that we might could move into, other funding sources besides just, because $1 million a month in the next 10 months now, you want to talk about daunting. I mean, that just makes my head spin. And maybe they know somebody that can do that, but I would just think that would strengthen their case with us, with the state board, and then also make anybody that's considering them feel a little bit better about where they are with things. You know, as I think about recruiting, if I was told that I had 2 months to raise money or have a plan and we're not going to be able to do this, I think that would help in their efforts of getting people to get behind them and rally and do the things that need to be done. So I'm all for a 2 month or a month, 2 month delay before we finalize this.
And I guess that's the question, is what would be a fair amount of time for us to give them in order to get this all together and reconsider it? Would it be 2 months, 3 months?
Can I say something to that?
Yeah, please.
They have $1 million and they have land. Like, if they wanted to, I don't even know if they're open to it, to be honest. Like, you have $1 million in land, you could have put something together even in this to say, like, I mean, you can put up 16, 20, 2,000, you can put up 16,000 square feet right now, 18,000 square feet, house 200 kids and raise money and still be still have no debt.
Right.
Like, literally, they can start their school. I just don't know how open they are to it. They didn't seem like it when you brought it up and when I brought it up. So if in 30 days, even if you just were like, listen, this is what we're gonna do, bet on us, like, we can open up. We may not be able to do this dream school that I'm seeing on their website that looks really nice. It may take us several years to raise that money, but we can open up. Because right now you wouldn't bet on them. You wouldn't put your name behind that.
Well, if we delay, which sounds like a great idea, however, they're wanting to start construction in May, right? Isn't that what they said? This coming May. So it's September. If we do a month or a 2 or 3 month delay, with that timeline that they gave us, breaking ground in May to be able to feasibly open in 23. That's,
No way they hit in May.
that,
No way.
I think, if I understand, I don't think we're suggesting they delay. I think we're suggesting that they keep working really, really hard, but
And
come back and
to us.
report to us in
Yeah.
30
Right.
days, like what progress they've made, or if they've put contingencies in plan,
or
in
that they
place.
have a second option,
Right,
that
right.
they're okay with that
Exactly.
second
Some
option.
sort
And
of-
rather
spend
than
half the
just-
money you have right now and put up buildings.
Right.
And start school. And with
Because-
22 acres, you could actually probably, I mean, it seems like just looking at their master plan, they could house kids while building over there
Right.
in phases.
Right,
What's the plan?
particularly if the site work is all done.
Yeah.
You know, because to
Yeah, all
Mr.
the
Friend's point,
environmentals.
it would be a tough precedent to set for us to say, you don't have to have a viable plan at this point.
I think we have to, if we're gonna give them 30 more days, 60 more days, I think we owe it to them, though, that they have to know what the metrics are.
Yeah.
And when you come back before us in 30, 60, 90 days, we wanna see X, Y, and Z. And if you don't have X, Y, and Z, honestly, you shouldn't even come back to us.
Yeah, and I don't wanna presume to tell them how to do it, but I think that the conversation that this body has had has indicated that we wanna see at least some sort of backup or contingency, or to give us confidence that they're, that it's not just a Hail Mary.
We
But
need to
I
make a
think they need to
decision,
figure
we're
that
running
out.
really late.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be harsh to those listening in from the school. Again, this is not about the school and the overall plan not having merit and not having a need. I think that's already, you've already established that. You established that back in 2019. But
Do we need
this
to
is
make
a
a motion
long
to
run,
table it?
this is a long runway.
Yeah, we need a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to table this for 60 days and have them come back in 60 days with a solid plan and let us know the progress that they've made in the past 60 days. And also present contingency plans as well.
I would second.
I
that.
second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Can we take a roll call vote,
Do we
please,
have a
Ashley?
discussion?
Oh, I forgot about discussion, I'm sorry.
Discussion, yeah.
The motion, what the request was though, was about not just the delay, but the name change. Are we including the name change in the 60 sorry, 60-day
days.
delay as well?
I think the amendment is all one thing.
Okay.
We can
Yes.
separate it if they, I can speak to them and see if they want that to be processed quicker, and we can approve that in office.
I was gonna say that a name change actually only got put together with this because it can be done in the office.
They're saying this Aspire would help them fundraise better because of confusion with Huntersville, so I would say that we might want
We
to
want that.
separate
name
the
change
two
go,
out.
Yeah.
They're already using it.
Right. I was
Yeah.
about to
It's
say.
what's on the website.
Yeah,
It's what's on the website, so.
And in some minutes.
We did recommend that they separate the two, but they wanted to bring them to you at this, so I think it is in their best interest to let our office approve their name change and then just act on Lynn's motion.
Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Well, we'll
So
stand.
does the motion need to be more clear though,
Yeah,
as to what the stipulations are?
yeah, that was my question too.
Yeah,
Or will
to make
staff
sure.
develop a list of questions that they will need to have answered by the time we revisit this issue?
We can do that.
We can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Can you please state the full motion again?
Lynn? Oh, do you have it, Ashley?
We're trying to work that.
So,
Yes.
Lynn has moved that that CSAB will table the amendment for 60 days. And in 60 days, Huntersville will reappear with the delay request and have questions that our office will provide answered, as well as a contingency plan and a timeline.
Very good.
Do we need to include that we're gonna separate the name change
And the name.
to be approved in office?
That's, cause
Yeah,
that's,
that wasn't
yeah,
part
That's
of the
the-
motion.
yeah, that's just internal.
So I think, no, he did.
Okay, so it's been properly moved and seconded. Are we ready to take a vote? Okay,
Yes,
Ashley, could we do a roll call vote,
Sure.
please?
Terry Stoops,
Aye.
Bruce Friend,
Nay.
Rita Hare,
Aye.
Lynn Kroger,
Aye.
Hilda Parlay,
Aye.
Cheryl Turner,
Aye.
Todd Godby,
Aye.
Shelley Bullard. Aye. Eric Sanchez,
Aye.
and John Elridge.
Aye.
All right, it passes.
By the majority.
Jennifer, I will get in touch with you about moving forward with the name change and then also the next steps for the next 60 days.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Okay, so I think we're ready to move on to NC Access. So sorry, Mr. Whalen, we kind of really.
If you want to go to the next group to stay on schedule, I'll be here all day.
Tip your waitress.
Thank you. Is the NC, is NC Virtual on? Are they on?
They're here.
Oh, okay, they're in, okay. Well, let's go on and move to that. Thank you, Jay, for being willing to be flexible.
Be a little more enthusiastic about you being here all day.
And I'll do it for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Marcia Simmons. I'm the head of school at North Carolina Virtual Academy. So one of the questions that was asked was our academic results from the 2020-2021 school year. I have included that here in this proficiency and participation data chart. For the 2021 year, as you can see, NCVA still hit our 95% or above participation on the EOGs, EOCs at the end of the year. That included both testing in December of 2020 as well as the end of the year in 2021. As you can see from the green, we scored at or above the state average in reading 3rd through 8th grade, as well as Math 1 and on the ACT above the state average. However, again, our areas of weakness are math, especially in grades 3 through 8. Definitely noticed that we did, although we did not be above the state average in Math 3, we were still higher than our previous 18-19 year. However, we had significant growth in Math 1. Any questions? Subgroup data was another question asked on the 2021 results. As you can see here, we did have growth, especially in our high school areas of Math 1, Math 3, biology, especially when looking at the 18-19 to 2021 areas versus male and female, as well as black and white students. And Hispanic students in our Math 1 proficiency scores this year. As you can see, for grades 3 through 8, in reading, we were higher than the previous 18-19 year for Hispanic group, as well as American Indian, Native American, and both Hispanic for 3rd through 8th math. That one. Ooh. For this one, as you can see, some of the areas I just went over. What was our summary of our statewide data? That was the 2 charts that I just showed you, as well as our greatest growth. Of course, our greatest growth was Math 1, Math 3, and biology from the previous 18-19 year, as well as improvements in above the state average in 3rd through 8th grade reading. Our biggest growth and challenge has always been our math scores, in which 3rd through 8th grade math has generally been lower than the state average, as well as it was lower than the previous 18-19 year. Our goals for this academic 21-22 year, as you can see, our academic goals are tied to academic achievement and proficiency, meaning we want to continue to increase year-over-year proficiencies in reading, math, science, and the ACT as required assessments, achieve 95% of eligible students to participate in assessments each year, reduce our achievement gap. I think that's a goal of all schools. Improve the withdrawal rate of our students by 3% each year, and improve our 4-year cohort over the previous year. We also want to increase the number of students taking honors, AP, CCP, and CTE courses from the previous year, as well as increase students in art and classes and programs. Again, 2 and 3, I already kind of went over, which is our greatest growth areas as well as our greatest challenges. To address the greatest challenges, one of the things we have put in place is we are this year specifically monitoring standards on all EOG, EOC courses by doing standards-based tracking, in which the teachers are every day using a tracker to document how when they're covering a standard, whether it's a regular standard or power standard, how students are doing on exit tickets, using Go Formative program, using Nearpod that's integrated with our system, as well as using that data to do remediation sessions in the afternoon for reading, math, and of course 5th and 8th grade science, as well as the EOC in the afternoon. So students have their regular sessions in the morning, and then they come back with remediation sessions in the afternoon. This is one of the things that we really did this past year with Math 1. And we see a huge gain in those growths. So now we're implementing it across the board, 3rd through high school. Our current enrollment, as you can see, we're right at capacity. This year, our max is 3439. As of this data, when I submitted on Thursday, we were at 3435. According to the legislation that was passed in March, we could have gone up to 5392, but NCBA's board, as well as staff, decided to maintain the number that we had last year of 3439 as our max capacity enrollment. Although we do have a significant population of students that are trying to come in that are on our wait list, as you can imagine, because of COVID. Our school is fully staffed except for 2 elementary positions. Both of those are grades 3 through 5, a remediation math teacher and a remediation reading teacher. And then the only other 2 positions that are currently open are 1 math curriculum specialist and 1 reading curriculum specialist. Total staff numbers from last year are 170 from the 2021 school year. Out of 170, 145 staff members returned for this year. And you can see the breakdown of those 25 staff members that left NCBA, either within the year or at the end of the year. Staffing challenges facing the school, as you can imagine, just like any in traditional brick and mortar school, math and exceptional children's teachers are always high need positions. Those were the ones that we feel last and had openings for. The start of our hiring season always starts in end of April, beginning of May, when we put anticipated positions on our website and people apply. However, in the past 2 years, we've had applicants looking for virtual positions due to possible risk to COVID exposure in traditional face-to-face school settings. So we do have teachers that are coming to us from other settings, brick and mortar settings, etc. Has there been any major operational changes over the last academic year? No. Our school is on financial compliance. We had no findings from our 2020 audit. We are currently starting our 2021 audit right now and collecting documents for that. And then board member changes. We had 1 board member that submitted their resignation from the board in late July. And then, as you probably know, there are leadership changes. I myself moved from the high school principal, where I was high school principal for 2015 up until April of this year, to interim head of school when I presented before y'all in May, to then permanent head of school here in June. My position was backfilled with one of the math curriculum specialists, which is why we have currently the math curriculum specialist position that's open. So we're now going to be backfilling that position. And then we do have a new middle school principal that will start on October 5th. She's already been hired. She's just doing her, 60-day notice at her current school. Questions?
Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Chair and Ms. Simmons. What will you plan to do to reduce the withdrawal rate?
One of the things that we were very fortunate, we had approximately between 85 and 88% of our students come back this year. We do our re-registration portal, opening up, asking if they're planning on coming back to us starting in February to kind of know before our lottery in April how many students or parents or families are planning to re-register for us. And we had 80 to 85% come back even at that particular point in time, even though COVID numbers were on the down slope. In addition to that, we do have advisors, dedicated team that makes phone calls to all parents, students, in conjunction with their teachers to just get a pulse on what's going on. Do you need any help? Do you need any organizational help? And then we found that one of the things I do believe that we have a good solid grasp, even though we're in the virtual environment, is we provide a lot of social and emotional support as well as clubs. Right now we have a wide variety of clubs, but even with e-gaming, I do not know all the stuff about e-gaming, but we do have an advisor, staff advisor that does that. So our kids sign up for that. We do an art and virtual talent show that the kids sign up and they perform and sing and dance and all of that other stuff. So they truly do feel part of the school. We have social sessions and stuff like that. The counselors have sessions with them throughout the week, as well as at least social and SEL programs with them every other week. And so we provide a kind of a well-rounded full support that our kids just want to come back.
I see they'll increase that from 3% to 23%.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think you answered my question. I was interested to know how many of those 3,400 students are actually new students, because obviously the fully virtual environment takes some getting used to for students who've never participated in any online course, let alone all their courses being online. So just curious as to what percentage of that number was actually new students. That truthfully makes your job even more challenging, just to get them acclimated to the environment.
It does, but like I said, we had 85 to 88% return back. So the rest was new students. However, we start those new students at the end of July. They get phone calls, they get invited to sessions. We call it a week of welcome sessions, in which they come in and they have to do kind of like, this is what your typical day is going to be like. Even with parents, how do you log attendance in our environment? How do you check your child's grades in our environment? How do you check, pretty much send emails or phone calls? How do you reach out to your teachers? And so we found out if we do that on the front end, it usually lessens the impact of the kids getting overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. I would say our high school is one of the ones that pretty much we have very few openings in high school. The only areas we have openings for are in 9th grade usually. And that's because sometimes when kids are from the 8th grade moving to 9th grade, they may want to go back and try what their local high school is and, clubs. And that's the one thing we don't do is sports. And so they can't play sports at their local high school while still being a full-time student with us. And so sometimes they go back to their high school of their district that they live in just to get a different type of environment. But we do tell them up front, if you leave, it's hard to come back. We do not have openings in 10th, 11th, and 12th. Normally when a kid stays with us 9th grade, they graduate with us.
Any other questions?
Marcia, this is Rita Hare.
Yes, ma'am.
Your reading in grades 3 through 8 outperformed the state average. I'm just wondering, to what did you attribute that?
I've had a unique perspective of being at this school since it first opened. I was the first academic hire. I was the middle and high school principal when it opened in 2015. I think Joel Medley was the head of school then. And just to see, what the differences and changes, because you have to look at your population regardless of whether it's COVID, before COVID, etc. It's that personal touch, I have to say. Even as a principal, I was one calling at least 5 students every day. whether they were or high school students. All of the principals did that just to get that touch. Like sometimes the parents are like, wait a minute, the principals are calling me. Hold on, Johnny, come here. What's going on? And I'm like, no, Johnny's not doing anything wrong. I'm just calling to ask what you may need to help Johnny be more successful, because most of the time the principal only calls when Johnny's in trouble. And so I think that personal touch, to the point of now, even at this point, although I'm not the head of the high school principal anymore, when I had students that were high schoolers and they had younger siblings, they were like, oh, I'm so ready to get to the high school because I know this teacher, and the principal. I know I can call the principal and just ask for little things. And I think that is some of the things that's missing. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with, I got to do this PowerPoint, I got to do this lesson, that just calling and making a simple phone call to a person just to say, hey, I don't need anything. I just want to let you know that if you need anything from me or the staff, just call me and let me know.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just say congratulations on your new position too.
Thank you.
Just want to add that NCVA is extremely responsive to our office whenever we ask for anything, and they're a joy to work with. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we want to go to the application cycle and take poor Jay and push him into the afternoon? Or do we want to go ahead and take Jay?
Jay.
Let's take
All right.
Jay.
NC Access.
I'll be quick either way. Good morning, board members. I'm here to present the timeline, application, and rubric for the upcoming cycle of the application, the sub-grant application timeline. That'll be fairly straightforward, so before I get to that, we weren't able to be together this summer, so I just wanted to share a couple brief highlights from the previous year, the Access program. We're almost 3 years into our 5-year CSP grant at this point, and we have 3 overarching goals. So the first of those is to expand high-quality charters to more educationally disadvantaged students around the state. And with the cycle that came through and was approved over this summer, we have met the goal of awarding 60 sub-grants. And so this final cycle, we have about $2.4 million remaining, so we'll be able to actually go above and beyond our initial goal of 60 sub-grants. And so those schools that are now implementing will begin, this new cohort will begin our Access Fellowship actually on Thursday. So the third cohort that we have going through that, and that's been an amazing experience so far. We've had 111 leaders complete that fellowship so far, 84 of them from sub-grantee schools, and then an additional 27 we call visiting fellows from a variety of schools that are not eligible for sub-grants, leaders that are part of our Aspiring Minority Leaders program, and also leaders from schools using the state's Restart model, so traditional public schools that are using the state's Restart model. The 34 schools that were operational last year added an additional 1,500 educationally disadvantaged students to their enrollments, and that's in addition to the 250 educationally disadvantaged students enrolled by 6 schools in Cohort 1 in the 2019-2020 school year. So we're seeing a lot of positive progress, and as you heard from both Ashley and Claire earlier this morning, weighted lotteries, transportation, school lunch, parent and community advisory councils are requirements of the program, so those are being implemented in schools across the program. And then some of the other initiatives that actually began last year, one that I mentioned was the Aspiring Minority Leaders program. So we have 13 leaders in a partnership with Appalachian State that are going through the MSA add-on licensure program to get their school administrator license to eventually be a charter school administrator. Their assistant principals, deans, teacher leaders, and other leaders within their schools right now, that hopefully this program through Appalachian State, and they also go through the fellowship with us, will set them up to be able to be high-impact leaders of charter schools in the future. And then we started offering additional statewide professional development last spring that was open to charter schools across the state. So regardless of their status in the Access program or not, we offered over 60 hours of virtual professional development that was attended by over 300 charter school leaders, staff, and other members. And we're offering more of that this fall, so we're sort of building that out, and we have a couple sessions that are coming up this fall to begin with. I know that we sent our annual review to existing board members. I've made a note to make sure that we get that to some of the new board members that are starting with this today. So you have all that information, and I'm happy to answer more questions and talk about this as we come back before you each month. But so to get to the timeline, I won't say much about the application and rubric outside of minor grammatical and technical changes like updating dates. There's nothing substantively different about those from years past. And so the timeline that we have before you, we're bringing this to you today, and it will ultimately be approved by the state board in November, so we can release the request for application on November 15th. That is a Monday. Letters of intent for the 2022 cohort will be due on January 14th, that is a Friday, and then eligible applicants will be invited to apply by March 1st, which is a Tuesday. So very similar timeline to previous years, and then we will bring recommendations for, this will be our final cohort of subgrant applicants. We will bring the recommendations to this board in May of 2022, and then we will go to discussion at the state board in June, and for final approval in July. And so one quick note, we do replication applications on a different timeline because of the requirement to have applied for a charter. And so those applicants, the eligible applicants are due on October 1st, and we potentially have 2 of those that could come to us on October 1st. And so our plan will be to bring recommendations to this board in November of this fall, and then discussion at state board in December and final approval in January, so we can get those schools sort of moving and allow funds to open up as they begin their replication to open their new schools. So those will work on a little bit different timeline. Nothing needs to be approved for their application. They're working on the previous application from last year. And then we obviously provide technical assistance, application trainings, office hours support to all of our applicants throughout that process up until the application deadline of March 1st. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
I do.
Yes.
When are we meeting with the equity working group?
We are working on that. So TBD, more to come.
Jay, this is Rita Hare. Can you briefly address the point system as it's assigned in these applications? Is that considered, is that somewhat subjective, the point system for the education plan? Or is that very specific criteria that's defined and understood?
Yes, so in the rubric, each aligned question from the application has a designated number of points that goes along with it. Within the rubric, there are characteristics of a strong response that we provide to not only applicants who review the rubric as they write their application, but also to external evaluators. And so during our external evaluator training, which will happen in the spring before applications are submitted, we go through the full rubric. We do training with those reviewers. We do sample scoring, and we norm on what we're looking for in those answers. So with those characteristics of a strong response, with the expertise and experience that those evaluators bring, as well as the members of the access team that score applications, there is obviously not a surely definite way to say like this deserves this amount of points and this deserves this amount of points, but we do our best to norm on scoring of what a strong response is and what a weaker response is. And so those points are sort of there is some subjectivity, but we do our best to norm on those during application trainings.
Mm-hmm. Good, thank you.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. I think we need a vote on approval so we can take this to the state board.
Can I get a motion and a second, please, to approve the application timeline?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the NC Access timeline, application and rubric.
I'll second that.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Ashley, I don't see Melanie, so.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're gonna start the.
So honestly, I'm sitting up here thinking, who is that woman? Did they hire somebody else? Who is that? And now she takes off her mask, she looks just like Melanie.
Well, she had like so much of it was COVID. She started during COVID, so it was like right before it. Yes, but.
And I've only ever seen her on a screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So I'm not a hologram. Good morning, Melanie Rackley with the Office of Charter Schools. Our office, because you all have new members, we wanted to acclimate everyone to the charter school application process and get everyone on the same page. So each year, petitioners are granted the opportunity to submit charter school applications to your board, and then you all are tasked with making those recommendations to the state board for approval or denial of the submitted charter school application. Our most current charter application period ran from May 28th to July 30th, 5 p.m. By that deadline, we received a total of 21 applications. And so this morning we'll briefly outline the statutes and those state board policies that guide your charter application process. We'll conclude with any updates and then any closing remarks or questions that you may have. So on the next few slides, you'll have the statutory and the policy guidelines. All of these can be made available by the Office of Charter Schools to you. They are available on eBoard. They're also available on the General Assembly's website. So in terms of the final approval, the state board was authorized obviously through General Statute 115C-218.5. That authorizes the state board to grant final approval of those applications. And then when we get into 115C-218B10, it kind of outlines your duties regarding those charter school applications specifically. Again, you all make the recommendations to the state board, and then you all you review those applications. You make recommendations to the state board, and that also would include what we heard earlier today: amendments, revocations, renewals, etc. So again, those statutory references are available by our office. Ashley, you're okay? Yeah, okay. And so then, one thing that's also important to note, I think if we can go back just a little bit. Yes. So what's also important to note in terms of our timelines, when the timeline closed on July 30th, we also gave our applicants the opportunity, if there were any incomplete applications, we did give the statutory 5-day minimum to correct anything. So all the applications that you will see in the next several months have been vetted for completeness. So they all are complete according to the rubric. Our staff fully vetted those applications for completeness. So I wanted to mention that these general statutes and the charter CHTR policies also established the non-refundable fees, and it determines the process for which we need to notify any applicants of any incomplete status. So all of our applicants have been notified, and they've corrected anything that needed to be. So again, those references are available for you. And what's also important, I need you to go back just one. What you will hear today from one of our applicants, they are fast-track replication, so there are stringent criteria as it relates to these application types. So we wanted to call that policy out, in particular CHTR 016 for reference for those new members. That's something that you want to make sure that you're fully aware of the criteria to meet fast-track replication. It also forgoes the requirement to meet the planning year. If we approve those fast-track replication, they do a one-day training, and their planning year process is essentially, omitted. And so, again, those references are there for you. Okay? Thank you. Yep. So, and I think it's also important to note that obviously the acceleration requirements, we will hear from our accelerated applicants today and tomorrow, as well as next month. And so those accelerated applicants also, they enter into the planning year regardless of knowing if they'll be approved by recommendations for approval for state board. So also want to make that note. So as we think about these applicants today and next month, we have to, keep in mind the requirements, and they've been made aware that they have to enter into the planning year with no guarantee that they would be approved. And so the responsibilities of OCS and CSAB, the column to your left, you'll see that most of these duties have already been exhausted by our office. We've done the full gamut here. We've collected the application fees, and we've notified each applicant at each stage of the process. And so that results in the culmination of the OCS duties up until today. And so we'll see these, the culmination here with these interview opportunities that we will, we'll see today and in subsequent months. And so it's important to note for you all on that right side of the chart, you all are tasked with making one of 3 recommendations at the conclusion of each application. So you'll either recommend to the state board for approval, recommend to the state board for denial, or you'll hold over for second round interviews. So that's essentially what has been in place in previous years, but we do actually have some process improvement based upon the feedback that we received on our last cycle. We want to make you all aware of some of those changes that we've implemented. Ashley, please, next slide. So before we do that, it's important to note of the 21 applications, this is kind of the county distribution that you see. So again, what we commonly see is a high number of applicants in the Mecklenburg-Charlotte area. So we have 6 applications that we'll hear from Mecklenburg this year. But again, evenly distributed geographically across the state. We've got 1 in Alamance, Caldwell, and Cumberland County, Granville County. We'll hear from 2 in Guilford. You'll hear from Johnston County applicant today. We've got 1 in Lenoir, Orange, Perquimans, Pitt County, Rockingham, 2 in Wake County, 1 of which you'll hear from today, and then 1 in Wayne. And so generally the process is identical to what it was last year. Your applicant boards will have about an hour. OCS staff will make a 5-minute introduction. The applicant board will then be allowed a 10-minute open statement. They'll be able to introduce their boards. You have their board member information there, so they will make that 10-minute introduction. Then you all will discuss for 25 minutes. You'll have a full discussion, allowing for some Q&A of the board, and then we'll allow the petitioner to make their closing statement for 10 minutes, and then you all can deliberate for the final 10 minutes. So that's essentially the process that was in place last year. Where we've made some shifting and upgrading of the process, next slide for me, please, would be on your second round interview parameter. So if you decide as a board to grant the second round, these applicant boards can only submit items that are specifically requested by CSAB. And so we believe that this kind of controls the process more, allows for more, a better document management process. So again, our office is able to compile the information that you all recommend, and then we get it out to the applicant board to make a streamlined process for any document management. And again, as Ashley mentioned earlier, the committee lead is responsible for collecting those second round questions, and OCS staff will then distribute that out to those boards. And then the applicants will have just 10 calendar days to provide any of that requested documentation. So we're going to work to put this process in place for this current cycle. Thank you, Ashley. Okay, and so then if applicants are granted the 5-minute, the second round, we've condensed the opening statement by 5 minutes, so they'll be allowed to reintroduce themselves for 5 minutes. You all will then Q&A for 25 minutes. They'll be allowed to give their 5-minute closing, and then you all have the 10-minute deliberation vote period. So this condenses it down to about 45 minutes, I believe. So trying to streamline the second round process as much as possible for you all. Next slide, please. And again, just to recall the committee assignments, if you all did not see them earlier, here we have the committee, the Performance and Policy Committee, and those chairs there, and then we have the floaters as well. So if you have any questions, our office does have the full scope and the full year of interviews. I believe right now it's like a 5-month period, and we're holding over certain slots for any second round that we have. So these are the committee assignments, and you all have been assigned new members. Okay.
And it's been revised a little bit, so the one you have on eBoard now is and the one we went over this morning is the current one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, as we look into today and tomorrow, you'll see those committee leads for their applications that we'll hear from this afternoon and then tomorrow morning. And then a look ahead, just again, another 4 schools that we'll hear from in October, and you'll see who's the lead there. And so committee members, you all can contact and work with your committee leads on those applications for this month and next month, obviously. So, is that it? Yeah. All right, so any questions as it relates to the process? Again, our office, me and Ms. McCarroll, we're gonna work really adamantly to monitor the time to make sure that we respect the time parameters that we have set forth. And so we're looking for some features to actually be able to display either, here and to our virtual attendees so that we monitor that time. But aside from that, I will be working diligently to make sure that we keep you all on track for time.
Does anybody have any questions, particularly new people, about how this process works?
I like that they have more time, a little more time.
Thank you all.
Just a few comments too. There's obviously a difference between a fast track replication and the accelerated, which Melanie did a great job explaining. And then the accelerated applications, one of the two criteria is you must demonstrate a need for that school to accelerate it, and they should have a facility that's pretty close to being ready to move into. I am visiting every accelerated application school, and we'll certainly be able to let you know what their building situation is. Okay.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to move that we go into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute, Section 153-318.11A3, to consult with our attorneys in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorneys and the public body.
I'll second.
It's been properly moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we will go to lunch after closed session, and then we will come out and begin again at 12:45.
Mm-hmm.